Hello and welcome back to the 15th lecture on Introduction to Solid-State Physics. In the last video we have discussed about the reciprocal space and we had introduced the concept behind the reciprocal space. We had also established the relation between the real space lattice translational vectors and the reciprocal space lattice translational vectors. And all these things we are doing it to obtain an expression for the scattering amplitude and to know the insight of the crystal structure. So to continue with that, today let us try to obtain the Law's diffraction condition. For that purpose, let us consider a solid and inside the solid consider a small volume dV. This is the elementary volume inside the solid, and this is defined with respect to this origin O. Let us incident a beam of X-rays which can be represented using the plane wave equation, that is exponential I k dot r, because it contains the wave front of this particular X-rays can be constructed using the plane waves, and these plane waves of the X-rays are being incident on this particular solid. So what happens, suppose this ray 1 represented using this brown color is incident, and this is the corresponding scattered X-ray. Similarly, for this ray 2, which is with respect to this origin, is incident at this point O and it is scattered at this point. Now our aim is to obtain the total phase difference between this ray and this ray. So how to obtain that? For that we have to first find out the path difference. So what is the path difference between this ray 1 and ray 2? So as we had studied in the Bragg's law, we have to draw the corresponding perpendicular. So this is the perpendicular, and suppose if this angle is phi, then this particular distance, which is the path difference between the ray 1 and ray 2 with respect to this origin, will be r sin phi. So this is the path difference between these two incident rays with respect to the points P and O. The ray 1 is incident at the point P, ray 2 is incident at the point O, and the path difference between them can be given as r sin phi. So this is the path difference, and this path difference can be converted into the phase difference by multiplying with 2 pi by lambda. So the path difference and the phase difference relation is 2 pi by lambda into the phase difference will give you the path difference. So this is the path difference between these two incident rays is 2 pi by lambda r sin phi. And in the plane wave expression, there is a term k, which is the wave vector, and this magnitude of the wave vector is 2 pi by lambda, that we know from the basic electromagnetic wave theory. Now we can write the phase difference in between the two incident waves as k r sin phi. In the place of 2 pi by lambda, we have written k, which is the magnitude of this incident plane wave, and this sin phi can be written as cos of 90 degree minus phi, because cos 90 degree minus phi is equal to sin phi. And what is this 90 degree minus phi? It is the angle between these two rays. So this is the incident ray 1 and this is the position vector with respect to this origin. So the angle between this ray 1 and this r is 90 degree minus phi. So this is the angle. This angle is 90 degree minus phi. This is 90 degree. So this will be 90 degree minus phi. So it can be represented as the dot product of the vector k and the vector r, because we know that any vector, if you take a dot b is equal to the magnitude of a times the magnitude of b times cosine of the angle between these two vectors. In this case, the angle between the vector k and the vector r is 90 degree minus phi. So it can be represented as k dot r. This is the phase difference of the two incident rays. One is incident at the point P, which is located inside a small volume dV of the solid, and another one is at point O. With respect to these two, this is the total phase difference for the incident wave. And here in this case, we can represent it using this points QP. Similarly, for the scattered wave, the path difference will be PR. So this is the path difference between this scattered ray and this scattered ray. So this is ray 1, the same ray which is getting scattered, and with respect to the point O, the path difference will be PR. So how we can represent PR? PR will be r sin phi prime. If phi prime is this angle, then this distance will be r sin phi prime. Similarly, as in the previous case for the incident waves, here also you can write the phase difference to be 2 pi by lambda times the phase difference. So this is the path difference, can be represented as 2 pi by lambda prime times del prime. Here we have written lambda prime because till now we have not considered the elastic scattering. Later on we will see that for elastic scattering lambda is equal to lambda prime. So 2 pi by lambda prime is equal to k prime. And what is this k prime? It is the magnitude of the wave vector k prime, which is the scattered wave. So this will be k prime r sin phi prime, and this sin phi prime can be written as cos of 90 degree plus phi prime with a negative sign. Cos of 90 degree plus phi prime is minus of sin phi prime, that we know from the trigonometry equations. Cos of 90 degree plus phi prime is equal to minus of sin phi prime, which we know from the basic trigonometry equations. Now the angle between the vector k prime and the vector r. Let us go back once again to this diagram. So the angle between this vector k prime, this is the vector k prime and r, and so this is the angle between them. This is the angle, and this angle will be 90 degree plus phi prime, in fact 90 degree plus phi prime. So this is phi prime, this 90 degree, this is 90 degree, so this 90 minus phi, total angle is 180 degree, so this will be 90 degree plus phi prime. So the angle between these vectors k prime and r is 90 degree plus phi prime. So this can be written as the dot product of the vectors k prime and r, and already we are having this negative sign. So what is the total phase difference now? For the incident wave it is plus k dot r, and for the scattered wave it is minus of k dot r. So the total phase difference can be written as del plus del prime, which is k dot r minus k prime dot r. Since the X-ray diffraction is an elastic scattering, the total momentum is conserved. So the magnitude of the vectors k and k prime both are same, and they are equal to 2 pi by lambda. So the total phase difference can be written as minus of k prime minus k dot r, and this k prime minus k is called as the change in the wave vector del k. So this can be written as minus of del k dot r. This is the total phase difference. Now let us try to obtain the scattering amplitude. The scattering amplitude is proportional to the number of electrons inside the volume dV. Because more is the number of electrons, more will be the scattering, and the scattering amplitude will increase. And if rho r is the electron density, then the number of electrons inside the volume dV will be rho r dV. Already this quantity we had introduced in the previous class while discussing the reciprocal space lattice vectors, and we know that this quantity is periodic and having the same periodicity like that of the crystal. So the scattered amplitude is proportional to the number of electrons inside the volume dV, which is equal to rho r times dV. It is also proportional to the total phase difference, which is given as exponential minus I del k dot r. This is the total, this is the phase factor. Exponential of I minus I del k dot r is the phase factor, whereas the phase difference is minus of del k dot r. So the total scattering amplitude can be given as, if you take the proportionality constant to be equal to 1, can be written as integration 0 to v rho r dv times this total phase difference, which is exponential minus I del k dot r. So this is the total scattering amplitude. This one was for the small volume dV. If you integrate it throughout the entire volume, then we can obtain the total scattering amplitude. And now let us apply the relation that we had obtained for rho r in terms of the corresponding reciprocal space vector. So rho r can be written as, in the last class we had seen that rho r can be written as summation over g fg into exponential I g dot r. This we had seen in the previous class, and these are the corresponding Fourier coefficients. So now this f can be written as summation over g fg, and in the place of rho r we have written this one, summation over g fg exponential I g dot r. Already we are having this minus I del k dot r factor, so the total phase factor will be exponential I g minus del k dot r, and this is the total scattering amplitude. Now this scattering amplitude has to be maximum where the diffraction maximum will take place. Maximum means the amplitude has to be maximum, because the square of the amplitude is the intensity. So wherever this diffraction maximum will take place corresponding to the constructive interference, the amplitude f must be the maximum. And when this is possible, from this relation, this is possible only when this quantity is 1, so that g is equal to del k, or g minus del k is equal to 0. So that means the condition for the diffraction maximum is that the change in the wave vector, del k is what? It is the change in the wave vector due to the scattering. The change in the wave vector must be equal to the reciprocal space lattice vector, which is g. Last class we had defined g. G is a point in the reciprocal space and can be represented using the expression h capital A plus k capital B plus L capital C. HA, this we had seen in the last video, HA plus KB plus LC. So this is the basic condition for diffraction maximum to take place. That means the change in the wave vector due to scattering must be equal to the reciprocal space lattice vector. Now we can obtain the maximum amplitude by putting g to be equal to del k, so that the exponential factor becomes 1. So f max is equal to summation over g fg integration over the entire volume, which is equal to v. So this is the expression for the maximum scattering amplitude, and where g is equal to HA plus KB plus LC. Now this condition, when we take the dot product of the vector A, B and C, which are defined in the real space with respect to this change in the wave vector due to scattering, that is A dot del k will be equal to A dot g, since del k is equal to g. For maxima, del k is equal to the vector g. So A dot del K will be equal to A dot G, and we know that A dot G is equal to 2 pi h, whereas similarly B dot del K will be equal to B dot G, which will be equal to 2 pi K. Remember, here K is the Miller indices, one of the Miller index. It is should not be confused with this wave vector. This K and this K are different. Similarly, C dot del K will be equal to 2 pi L, and this set of equations are called as the Laue equations for diffraction. So today we obtain the maximum scattering amplitude, and we also obtain the Laue equations for diffraction. Little bit more we can extrapolate, and we can also get the Laue condition for diffraction. Already we know that the basic criteria for the diffraction to take place, delta K is equal to G. That means K prime minus K is equal to G. And since the scattering is elastic, the magnitude of the vectors K and K prime are the same, which is equal to K. K is the magnitude of the wave vectors K and K prime. So from this relation, if you take the dot product of the same on the left hand side and in the right hand side, then K plus G is equal to K prime. Now you take the dot product, K plus G dot K plus G is equal to K prime dot K prime. So the dot product of any vector with respect to the same vector can be written as the square of that particular vector. So this can be written as the K plus G whole square, and this is equal to K prime dot K prime, and this can be expanded as K square plus 2 K dot G plus G square, and is equal to K square. This is equal to K square, because we know that the magnitude of the wave vectors K and K prime are the same. Now this K square will get cancelled out in the left hand side and in the right hand side, and we can obtain the Laue condition for diffraction, which is 2 into K dot G plus G square is equal to 0. So this is the basic condition for diffraction, and it is defined in the reciprocal space. In the next class we will be discussing more about this vector G and how the Fourier coefficient is related with the structure factor, that is Fg, how it is related with the structure factor. That also we will be discussing in the coming classes.